Why is it not doing that? Oh, it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, as Manchester United are again linked to Bryan Mbuemo of Brentford, get the name right. Also, a Cunha delay, an update on Frimpong, and where are Manchester United looking. We've had quite an interesting article come out from Chris Wheeler. We'll talk about that. Also, a Fabrizio Romano update as well. So, a little bit of a bonus, 2 p.m. on a match day from Goldbridge with you. I'm not on the Melbeck yet. Look, that's sealed. Absolutely fantastic. That's not been touched. You can see it moving around. Nothing taken out of that yet. It's only 2 o'clock. The mic is probably a little bit low. I didn't check that. Thank you very much. It's a little bit low. It's up now. Good stuff. Okay, let's fly into this then. So Chris Wheeler, first of all, with a story coming out about Bryan Mbuemo. So basically, Manchester United have inquired about Mbuemo and won't have been put off after coming up against the Cameroon international in the defeat by Brentford. United see Mbuemo as an option in one of the 2 number 10 roles in Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3 system. They've also looked at Eze of Crystal Palace and Leipzig of Simmons, which makes you straight away start thinking about Cunha. Well, in the same article, it says a deal that seemed to be well advanced seems to have gone very quiet over the last week or so. But there's no need to worry just yet. As far as we know, United want Cunha and he wants to play for United. The release clause is 62.5 million, so there's no issue over the fee, and Wolves accept the Brazilian will leave this summer. The players' camp are said to be relaxed over the situation, but there are bound to be questions while so many other clubs are still in the mix. Newcastle, Arsenal, Villa, Tottenham, Liverpool are just a few of the rivals who've been linked with Cunha, but United remain favourites. So what's going on there? Are we getting one or the other? Are we getting both? Are we getting neither? So what we're basically talking about here is, well, quite a significant update. Also, I want to talk about Frimpong and a couple of other bits around Kalbi Mainoo's contract. But I think that, look, what I would say is this. Cunha, I think, will sign for Manchester United. So let's just park that. We've spoken about that in depth. I think that will happen. There's a delay, but the thing about a delay is it could be here we go tomorrow, and then there is no delay. It could be here we go in 2 weeks. I'm not worried about Cunha until we've got reason to worry about it. And I think at United, as I said this morning, there is loads and loads and loads of people out there talking about the Cunha, about negativity. We don't need to start finding issues around Cunha. We'll deal with it if it comes, and I don't think it will. So why Mbuemo? Is Mbuemo being spoken about because we're worried about the Cunha deal falling through? Is he the drop back? Or are we thinking about getting both? If we're thinking about getting both, why are we thinking about getting both? I really do think that what we've got to look at here is could United afford to get Mbuemo out of Brentford for 50 to 60 million and get Cunha out of Wolves for 62 million? And the answer is no. It's absolutely no. So I'm a little bit confused why these Eze and Mbuemo and Simmons stories are being floated around consistently when there's no issue with the Cunha deal. We haven't got the finances to do that. Now, unless we're going to sell Garnacho and then we're going to bring Mbuemo and Cunha in, I can't see how that works. The one thing I have thought about, though, is could you do this deal and not get a midfielder? Could you do this Mbuemo deal and just not bother with an Edison or whoever else you're thinking in that area and basically just say, well, if I get Mbuemo and I get Cunha and I move Bruno deeper and I've already got Casemiro for another year, Agate for another year, Mainoo's here, Collier potentially, Kone coming through, do I actually need the Edison signing if I'm going to move Bruno back deeper anyway and I've got Casemiro for another year? And that's what sort of came into my mind, because what I would say is some people might say, oh, no, we need an Edison. We need an Edison. We need a player like that. And I do agree, but how will that work with Edison when you've already, Agate's going nowhere, Bruno can play that position, Mainoo can play that position, and Casemiro's going nowhere? You're suddenly very stacked in the pivot for a lot of players. Whereas if you don't bring Edison in, and you bring Mbuemo and Cunha in, you could have a front three of new striker, Cunha and Mbuemo. You've got people like Ahmad, Garnacho. You've suddenly got option. What I'm trying to say is, yes, we've not had a very good season, but really, the reason we haven't had a good season is we haven't scored enough goals. We've defended not badly since we've got De Ligt, Maguire, Yoro, Mazraoui working under the Amrim system. So bringing somebody like Ederson in would be great. But do we need to do it this summer when you could bring another attacker in? Basically, we need to score another 30 goals. And if you've got Cunha and Mbuemo and a striker, I think you probably do. So do you even bother with a midfielder this summer? Do you just go 2 number 10s and a striker? And maybe that's what they're looking at doing. I can't justify it. I can't understand it. I don't know why we're looking at Mbuemo when the Cunha deal's very close. But look, I'm not going to sit here and say to you, I don't want Mbuemo and Cunha. Because I do. I don't mind about, well, what happens to Ahmad, what happens to Garnacho, what happens to Xerxes. I mean, they're all very good questions, and I can't for the life of me see we're going for both. But we consistently get bombarded with the fact that we are looking at Eze, that we are looking at Mbuemo, that we are looking at Simmons, and that Cunha's very close. So, look, we need experience. We need players who can hit the ground running. And Mbuemo's experienced, Cunha's experienced. I wouldn't say no to both. But my feeling is it will be one or the other. But that is the latest I can sort of come to at the moment in relation to that. We've also got another update from the same journalist, Chris Wheeler. It seems likely at this stage that Bruno will stay to be part of the rebuild under Amrim. I know this is irritating some people. I've had so many messages about it. Like somebody even said to me, I wish we'd never known that Saudi were willing to give us 120 million for Bruno, because I'll never move past it. Now, I'm not going to identify that person. I mean, people will say it's Ricky. It's not. It's not. But look, some of us are very happy that he's going to stay, but I can put myself in the shoes of the people that would have done the deal, and it must be very, very frustrating to know he's not worth 120 million. He's not even worth 80 million pounds. Well, maybe he is worth 80 million, but he's not worth 120 million pounds. That's ridiculous money. And to know it's there, and the club have said no, I think it's going to cause a lot of people frustration. I think Bruno's almost in the Arteta position next year, isn't he? Anything goes wrong, and it's going to be what? So yeah. Vagabond, welcome to the Members Club. Look, I'm not going to be smug about it. I don't think we should be doing that deal. I'm happy we're not going to do the deal. But I can empathise and understand those who are going, I would do the deal, and what the hell are we not doing that deal for? So, a lot of people, I think a lot of people will say that, in fairness. Also, I mean, look, this is just vindication, validation of what we've been saying for a long time. Same article from Chris Wheeler says Liam Delap is the #1 target, but United are facing plenty of competition from a number of clubs in the Premier League and around Europe. United will have a list of alternatives if they lose out in the race for Delap, so keep an eye on the likes of Osimhen, Betsesko and Gyökeres. There will be plenty of others. That story's not true. That story's not true. And I'll tell you, you can believe this or not, but that story is not true. And I'll tell you why you should believe it, because they're saying Liam Delap is the #1 target for Manchester United. And we said this before anybody else because we got it from a very good source. I don't want that to be true, but we did get that from a very good source before anybody else was talking about it about 4.5 weeks ago, that Liam Delap was Man United's priority. They're confident they're going to get him. They feel they've beaten Chelsea, blah, blah, blah. But that element, the second bit's not true. He is not the priority, and if they don't get him, they'll go for Osimhen, Sesko or Gyökeres. That's total and utter bullshit. It's probably what Man United want to be out there, but it's not true. We are not prioritising Liam Delap as our #1 priority ahead of Gyökeres, Osimhen and Sesko. That would be bloody stupid, and only an idiot would swallow that nonsense. We are prioritising Liam Delap as our priority because he is the cheapest option and the most gettable option. He will cost £30 million and his wages will be less than 150 grand a week. Gyökeres, Osimhen are going to cost you 200 grand a week north and double in fee. So that is why Liam Delap is the priority. There is an element of price into why he is the #1 priority. Absolutely true, as we said 5 weeks ago. He's the #1 priority, but we're not going to pivot to Gyökeres if we can't get Delap. we're not going for Gyökeres because of price as well. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I don't want to be horrible, but this is like choosing a Vauxhall Astra over Ferrari. We're not doing that. Of course we want Gyökeres. Of course we want Osimhen. But financially, we can't afford it, so we're going for Delap. That's what's happening there. He is the priority. Also goes on to say that Man United's two main targets will be a striker and a number 10, but United could also sign a box-to-box midfielder and possibly another centre-back to replace Lindelof and Evans. For instance, Jonathan Tah is out of contract. I mean, look, some of this is just a little bit all over the place. It's almost like trying to give a big update on a load of things. Some of it will be relevant and well-sourced, and I think some of it's just a bit speculative. But this was quite interesting. More talks have taken place recently with Kobbie Mainoo, and there is positivity around his situation and a future at United. The contract issue has dragged on for some time now with no resolution. It isn't just a financial matter. Mainoo wants to know where he fits into Ruben Amorim's system. He's played as a DM and in the number 10, with neither a position and natural for the fit for the 20-year-old. It's understood that he's looking for around 180k a week, which doesn't seem unreasonable given that one of his midfield partners, Casemiro, is on 7k a week. I don't like these types of stories. I really don't like these types of stories. He's not worth 180k a week. And I think if we give him 180k a week, it's going to cause pressure and unfairness against the player. Look, if I was him, I'd want 300k a week. You know, if you can get it, well done. Well done to you and well done to your agent. But he's not worth 180k a week, is he? I mean, he's not. I think he's on a low wage at the moment, but he's not worth 180k a week, and he can't say it's a reasonable wage because Casemiro is on 350k a week, because Casemiro's wage is ridiculous. I think that I've always felt that we'd keep Mainoo. I think it's really, really important that we keep Mainoo. I wouldn't be too stressed about position either. I think Mainoo's position's probably more about, am I part of Amorim's first team plans rather than where he's going to play? Because I think at 20 years of age, you can't really be saying, what's my position? Because there's plenty of... Paul Scholes at 20 was playing up front more than he was playing midfield. So I don't think we need to worry too much about position. It's more about how much Amorim values him. I think one of the things about Amorim and Mainoo, a lot of people are asking at the moment is, if we get the signings we want, where does Mainoo fit into this team? Because you're basically going to have Agate or Casemiro, probably Bruno, in the midfield pivot, and then you're going to have Cunha, Garnacho, Xerxes, maybe Mount, maybe Ahmad in the 10s, and then the striker. So where does Mainoo start? I mean, it'd be great to say it'll be Mainoo and Agate, and then it will be Cunha and Bruno, but then there's a lot of players aren't playing there either. So I think I'd be less worried about what my position is if I was Mainoo, and more worried about where my whether I'm part of the starting lineup, wherever that may be. He's got a lot of potential, he's got a lot of growth, and we should be keeping him at Manchester United. But that, to be fair, that little bit I've just spoken about there completely and utterly blows out the water the 180k a week. Like, he shouldn't be on 180k a week. We don't even know whether he's in the starting lineup. He shouldn't be on 180k a week. Man United shouldn't be doing that deal. They shouldn't be doing that deal. And I don't think they will do that deal. What do you think he's worth then? Look, personally, I don't think he's on 100k a week at the moment. So I think 125k a week top, and then you revisit. You put it in the contract that you revisit that contract every year, and it's based on performance in the previous year. I think that's. I would love to have a wage system where it goes up and down. Like, I don't think it's that difficult. There are spreadsheets and things on Excel that work better than this and more complex than this. You're on 125k a week. If you have a good season, and we'll define a good season based on appearance, what the team does, what you do individually, then we will knock that up to 150 grand for the next season. If you had a bad season or you're out injured or whatever like that, then that will come down. If you have a good season, it will keep going up, and that's what we should do. That's what we should do. So 180 grand a week is just another bad message. But let's be fair here. This is journalism. It's not fact. Remember in January, they said that he was demanding 200 grand a week. And everyone was like, sell him, get rid of him, greedy, this, that, and the other. I don't like it when people start talking about extortionate wages because, well, I thought it was 200 grand a week in January and now it's 180. Is that just negotiating down or are both figures bollocks? So I hope that people don't start looking at the wage and start having negative thoughts. Tyrus has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. You're a legend, pal. And Jake M says, watching the morning show and I had one thought in my head. Remember when Wigan played in the Europa League but were in the Championship? I wonder what people said then. Exactly, Jake. Good point. Thanks for your super chat. I'm excited for the game. Will you wear the sweater, says John. The sweater is coming out and so is this. It's the second leg. First leg didn't wear it. You can risk it. Second leg, there's no room for mistakes. So it will be on. I'm hoping it will not only have magic for Manchester United, but it might knock Spurs out as well. But yes, definitely wear the sweater because it's actually a bit chilly in the UK today. I think last week it was hot. Experienced front three will ignite the whole system, says Taylor Simpson. Look, it's very unlikely to happen, but I would almost say, don't buy. No, I'm not saying this. If we didn't buy any defenders, a goalkeeper or a midfielder, and all we bought was Mbuemo, Cunha and Gyökeres, I guarantee you next season we'd be in the top 6. Even if we didn't buy anybody else. And people will go, oh, no, we need a goalkeeper, we need a right wing back, we need a centre back, we need a midfielder. I'm telling you now, if we had Mbuemo, Cunha and Gyökeres as our front three and stuck it on this team, I reckon we'd be in the top 6. Because I just think they'd get you 30, 40, 50 goals extra than what we've got now. That's not what our strategy will be. But what I'm saying is you put 3 experienced players in the front 3 positions who score lots of goals. I think we'd score a lot of goals. And we do need to improve the defence and we do need to improve the goalkeeper and we do need to improve the midfield. But I'm just saying 3 players of experience in the front 3 positions. Imagine what that would do for somebody like Rasmus, Garnacho, Xerxes to have those 3 players to work with. It'd be great. But we probably won't do that. We're very unlikely to do that. Squad construction is a difficult thing, says Patrick Lynch. We are in a strange issue. We have options, but also gaps in the squad. It's difficult to do it all in the summer, says Exactly, Patrick, which is sort of what I was saying there. Do you just solve areas? Does Amrim look at it and go, yeah, I need a midfielder. Yeah, I need a right wing back. Yeah, I need a goalkeeper. But you know what? Instead of taking one for one area, one for the other, one for the area and solving nothing, why don't we just concentrate on the attack, get 3 really good players in, know we're going to score goals next season and then improve. Bruno would not go to Saudi, says Lucas. Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate that. Also, just spot on, I think wages should change depending on performance and injury status, says Reese. The reason it won't happen like that, Reese, is that we don't have a monopoly on wages. And if we started running our football club based on your wages can go up and down every year, suddenly players would go and play for Chelsea where they get 200 grand a week every year, no matter what. Because we live in a competitive sport with predominantly mercenary players who just want to make a living. And whilst it would be great to have performance-related pay that goes up and down, there'll be some club out there that goes, yeah, we're not about that life. We'll just give you 200 grand a week no matter what. And then they'll go and play for them. And that's the issue. That's why, wage cap will only ever work if every club in the Premier League and, well, Europe, let's be honest, signed up for it. And then the Saudi League would go, we don't do that, come here. A world-class front 3 is essential. We've lacked threats, as Caleb. More attacking possession makes your defence look brilliant. Our 10s haven't done enough. Thank you very much for that from Caleb. There is also an update coming in from Fabrizio Romano and a couple of other people around Frimpong today. Basically, Fabrizio is saying, as before, it could be a very interesting summer for Frimpong. He is still available with a release clause of somewhere between 30 and 34 million pounds. So you can get Frimpong for 30 to 34 million pounds. Liverpool have been mentioned again. We did have talks with him not that long ago, his representatives, but I'm not so sure that it's as hot as some of us would like it to be. I mean, look, I think Frimpong fits Manchester United like an absolute glove. because of the system he's played at Leverkusen. I wanted Frimpong when we played a back four, so the system we play at the moment, he'd be bloody brilliant. I mean, he's literally an assist machine for Leverkusen, so he'd be very, very good. I think he's going to come back to the Premier League. I mean, obviously he was formerly at Manchester City. And I think that, you know, I'd love a deal like that to happen. But there will be competition and there will be issues around whether Manchester United could afford to do a deal like that, as well as doing other deals that we've just spoken about there. So I think it's just laughing at something there. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting proposition for somebody, but I'm not too sure whether it would be a proposition for Manchester United. Would you do a door giveaway, says Tom? I don't really get the whole door giveaway thing, so I think I'll just move on from that. I know it's a funny joke for some, but there we go. Was Sancho don't play when him in the Premier League? Okay, don't know what that's all about. Mark, great show as always. Has anyone given the thought that if we do win the Europa League, we will have to play either PSG or Inter Milan in the Super Cup? Keep up the good work. Devontae, I mean, look, ideally I wouldn't want to be talking about that for 2 weeks till we've won the Europa League, but as I understand it, the Super Cup is about 3 days before the start of the Premier League season, so at least we wouldn't have to play on the Friday because the Super Cup would be on the Wednesday. It would just be a glorified pre-season game, really, which I don't know why we'd have a problem with it. I mean, I think it would be great. It would be a great game for us. I mean, I'm not jinxing it, but this would be a great game for us. 3 days before the Premier League starts, testing ourselves with a pre-season and some new signings against the Champions League winners. I'd love to be in the position to do that. It's a long time since we played in the Super Cup, so I would love to do that. But there is obviously tonight and 2 weeks' time to do before we get there. So yeah, but I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with playing PSG or Inter in a Super Cup. It means we're back in the Champions League. How are you doing today, says Said? It's a weird one today. I think like we've done so much in the first leg and we're 3-0 up. Approaching these types of games is a different type of mentality. You know, if you're 3-0 down, you're just like, can we pull off a miracle? If you're 1-0 up, you're like, how do we approach this? This is in the balance. If it's a draw, we've got to go for it. We've got to win. But 3-0 up, I don't sympathise with the players. They're professional footballers. They earn a lot of money. But I do sympathise with them in the sense that we've all been there, whether it's like amateur football or whatever. It's 0-0 at the start of this game with 75,000 fans with the opportunity to get to a Europa Cup final. But you're also in the back of your head, it's 3-0. And, you know, they're human beings. If we ever get to the time in the future where we're using bloody robots to play football, I'm sure there's a program you can put in where you ignore the fact that you're 3-0 up and just play it like it's 0-0. But human emotion, you can't do that. There will be an element of all of us that are going, we've got a bit of leeway here, don't do anything stupid. I watched the PSG Arsenal game last night. PSG had a 1-goal lead. They're at home. Arsenal were fantastic for half an hour. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. The intensity, the speed, they got at them. PSG, to a certain extent, played counter-attacking football, but they were a little bit lucky. People said, PSG defended well. I think in the first half an hour, Arsenal could have scored 2 goals. They just couldn't put it in the ball in the back of the net. So it wasn't necessarily good tactics by PSG to play counter-attacking football because they could have conceded that goal very, very quickly. They didn't, and ultimately they were better in the second half. But if I was looking at that game and I was Amorim, I'd look at the way Enrique played in the second half. They tactically changed, went a little bit more on the front foot and stopped Arsenal attacking. I think we've got to do that from minute one. I wouldn't, and I don't know whether you will, but I wouldn't in any way, shape or form think let's soak up pressure and counter-attack. I think we've got to try and push up against them. And basically, if we can get the first goal, it's party time, isn't it? That's what we knew last week. If we could have got one more goal in the second half against 10 men, we'd basically be home and hosed. But there is an element of a chance for Bilbao. And I think that the best thing we can do is not play defensive, try and get the game won. Does winning the Super Cup get us into a Club World Cup, says Kenzo? I think the Club World Cup's every 4 years and you've got to win the Champions League, but God knows. I don't know. All I know is, I don't know. All I know is I don't know about that. Anyway, look, quick update, exciting. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Of course, we've got countdown to kickoff starting about 6 o'clock. I'll be live with you at 7:30. It's watch along day. It's exciting. But look, there is other things going on, and I'll leave you with this. I genuinely think there's a train of thought, and I don't think it's United's train of thought, that you don't need to buy anybody else. You could just get Mbuemo, Cunha and Gyökeres, and that could be your summer transfer window. And I still think we'd get in the top 6 next season because of the abundance of goals we'd have, even with the midfield and defence that we've got. Maybe that could be a strategy. I don't think it will be. I personally think it will be Cunha or an Mbuemo or Eze or whatever. But imagine if we went for 3 really experienced players in the front 3 positions. Be very interesting, wouldn't it? Speak to you all later. Cheers. Getting excited.